Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 17 public beta and iOS 17 beta 3 re-release have been out for a few weeks now. We'll talk about the overall experience as it seems to change a little bit. We'll also talk about your experience based off the YouTube community poll, where at the time of this video there's over 10,000 votes and 177 comments. I've read every comment to determine what it's like to use now that we're out a few weeks. But there's even more features to talk about in iOS 17 that weren't found in the initial What's New video. Now, before we talk about that, there's a couple things I wanted to mention. The first thing is, if you have Apple Wallet and you're using Apple Pay, that is now available in Morocco and Vietnam. Also, Apple updated their website on the Apple Watch page, where if you go to buy an Apple Watch, it more closely resembles that of an iPhone, where you have options for aluminum, stainless steel, and instead of having a completely redesigned experience where you change the bands and more, they've changed this up to make it a little bit easier just to sort of go through quickly. So that's been updated. And if you have Apple Arcade, Stardew Valley Plus is now available on it. This launched the other day. Now, as far as new features, let's jump right into those, and the first ones have to do with photos. And within Photos, if you select a live photo, as you can see here, this is a live photo in my live photo albums, you now have the option to tap on the bottom and scrub through the motion footage, just like it was a video. You could do this before with a video, but not with live photos, so that's been added with Beta 3. Also, if you're using Search to search for live text within a photo, it now supports more languages, with Thai, Turkish, Dutch, and Russian. There may be even more, and if you've found more, let me know in the comments below. Now, if we go into our settings, and under Settings, tap on our name at the top, and if you scroll down and you're signing into iCloud for the first time, there's a new screen for that. I'll show you on the iPad. And on the iPad, I signed out, and if I tap on Sign into your iPad, you can use another device or sign in manually. We'll go ahead and use another device and then bring it nearby. So we'll position the camera just like normal, and it's going to sign in here on its own. It's going to look a little bit different than it did before, and there's a new animation where it's actually showing it signing in with my ID and more information. So it's great, just a new little animation showing you what's going on with music, Find My, Wallet, and much, much more. Now we're all signed in on the iPad. Let's take a look at the next feature, and that has to do with notes. If we go into Spotlight Search, just pull down, and seems to be a glitch here, so it's not working at all. So there we go. It added a device to my account, so maybe that's why. So let's go ahead and pull down. I guess we'll lock, try it again. There's many bugs in iOS 17 so far. And if we go into Spotlight and type the word notes, we have the option for a new note right here. Tap on New Note, it opens up a new dialog, and then we can enter a note with whatever we want to say. This is a new note. And then it will autocorrect there, hit done, and it saves. Also within Notes, you'll see we have the little icon here. If we want to draw, we're pretty familiar with that. If you slide back and forth, you have more options, and some are saying there's even more options for drawing if maybe you're using a crayon, with everything from the different colors, spectrums, and more, and some other options. So we have options for different thicknesses, and of course the different colors as well. Within Settings, if we scroll down to Music, within Music, scroll down a little bit further and you'll see Optimize Storage. You can use this if your iPhone is low on space to automatically remove music from this iPhone that you haven't played in a while. If you have this enabled, there's some new options. Compared to iOS 16.5.1 on the left, you'll see we have additional options for 4, 8, and 16 gigabytes. So you can use this if you want to just sort of limit your phone to the amount of music it can store. Additionally, if you haven't been using it already, Crossfade has been working really well. It seems to be working great. I may bring this down a little bit where it crossfades over 6 seconds instead of 12. But in general, it seems to work really well. It didn't with the first beta. If we're using AirPods with our iPhone or third-party headphones, there's been a slight redesign. We'll put the AirPods in my ear, and then we'll go to play a song. So we'll go into Music. I'll just hit play quickly. And with it playing, if I go into the Control Center and go to the little ear for the loudness, they've redesigned this just a little bit. We've got our battery status and then our overall decibel level. And also background sounds is more easily controlled here and has a slight redesign to it. Now this may have been changed in earlier iOS 17 betas, but I never mentioned it. So you have your background sound settings and more. You'll also be able to see some of this with third-party headphones. So you can have those background sounds, increase the volume of them, and use them just a little more easier directly from the Control Center. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, I actually made a short about the other day, and thanks to Colin Hughes, who's a quadriplegic who sent this in. He's a friend of the channel, and there's actually a new Siri authentication system with AirPods. If your device is actually locked and you have AirPods in and they're within range, it will be considered authenticated as long as they're still in range and you haven't changed the output of the device. You can still access my messages, calendar events, and more. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So I'll place my earpods in my ear and we'll lock the screen. You'll see it's locked. The little lock icon's there. And if I use Siri for this, Siri, read my messages. It says I have no new messages and it's authenticated. The same is true if you use Calendar and more. This is really nice and makes it super helpful for those that have accessibility needs and it's harder just to pick up the phone and use. This is great to have this. You can also string together commands without repeating the Siri command over and over, but also when you have automatically sent messages enabled, so within settings under Siri, and within automatically send messages, if you have that option enabled, maybe you're replying to someone and it's saying that it's sending the message. While it's sending the message, you can say stop or don't send that or change it, and it will allow you to do that. That's an update that hasn't really been mentioned by Apple. One additional feature is if we go to Safari and you're on a page that supports the reader option, you can see that by going into your settings and it says show reader. I've mentioned this feature before where it says listen to page. However, there's an accessibility component on top of this that allows you just to say, Siri, read this page. It actually starts reading the page and gives more information about it and works even if you lock the phone. So if we lock the phone, you'll see we're on the home screen or lock screen, and it gives a time countdown as to when the article will be finished reading. So you can actually just let that play in the background while it's reading the page to you through your AirPods. This is a great feature that I think is really overlooked for accessibility and works well not only just with touch controls, but with Siri as well. So I think Siri is getting some really nice enhancements this time around. One quick thing I wanted to mention additionally that's a feature that seems to be on tvOS 16.6 is official support for Hebrew on Apple TV and HomePod. So that seems to be coming when it releases probably this next week. Now, I wanted to show you a quick overview of all the features I've mentioned today. You can see them here. You can pause the video if you'd like, if you want to just keep up. I've had some people ask for that, so I thought I'd just list those quickly. Now, let's talk about the overall experience of the current iOS versions. iOS 16.5.1 seems to be going pretty well, but I am hearing more and more bugs about it. Most people say it's decent if you're a casual user, such as my wife or my daughters. They actually haven't complained about it at all. So most people say it's okay, but iOS 16.6 RC, which is out now, is even better. Most people say it's extremely stable based off the YouTube community poll. Things I've read there, most people are saying there's no issue whatsoever. I actually have it on my iPhone 14 Pro and have had very little issue with it, and most people say it actually has really good battery life. However, there are definitely still issues with iOS 17 Beta 3 re-release and public beta. I keep seeing more and more bugs and also having more and more good things to say about it as well, such as camera improvements. And as you can see, here's a couple photos from the 14 Pro Max running iOS 17 Beta 3 and also the iPhone 14 Pro Max running iOS 16.5.1. Just a quick comparison of a few different photos. So let me know if you think they look much better. They seem to be better. Hopefully they even improve more with iOS 17 Beta 4. Now, as far as bugs that are fixed, well, I'm not hearing many more, but the copy and paste bug was fixed where it was sort of prompting you if you wanted to do that. Dismissing a shortcut pop-up menu works properly. I've mentioned that. The health icon was fixed on the iPad, and other icons that actually had similar issues have been fixed as well, so it looks much better there. Additionally, there just seems to be decent stability, but there's definitely some issues overall. So when I say decent stability, I mean for an early beta. However, compared to a public version, it's not that stable. So the number one thing I hear that's wrong with iOS 17 public beta is the text box not showing properly when trying to send a message. If you go into messages, and within messages, if you just say maybe hello or hi, there's no send button. In fact, it's doing that right now, but if you hit return, that's sort of a workaround typically, and it shows up. Then we send it again, it works fine for now, but then will disappear again in the future. It definitely has some odd bugs here and there. Photos has been crashing on some people. I've heard from people about that. Wallpaper seems to either be missing, so if you go into your wallpaper and maybe you go to add a new one. Some people say that their wallpaper is missing altogether. However, it seems to be working for me now, but some people say they're just not there. Widgets often don't show up properly. That's what I'm hearing from quite a few people, where they just don't populate with information. Home hubs keep alarming and notifying me that they're not working properly in the Home app, so definitely some weird issues there. And additionally, Siri keeps saying, "Sorry, I don't understand." I've had some people say Wi-Fi isn't connecting properly. There's that ever-present notification bug that just seems to be there since iOS 16 and 17, where things just jump into place. And again, there's other issues with AirPods sometimes randomly disconnecting. Quite a few odd issues, and with text messages forwarding to my Mac doesn't work great all the time. Sometimes it's slow or nothing at all. Also, one additional issue I'm having now is with the Magic Keyboard on the iPad. Oftentimes when it's connected, I'll have to reconnect it because it just doesn't work. The keyboard stops working properly, and I'll actually have to connect it to the Magic Keyboard like this, and then disconnect it, reconnect it, and it seems to work often. So sometimes it's just very buggy here and there. And overall, it just has pretty decent performance. So it seems to be much faster than Beta 2, but it does seem to get pretty warm for a lot of people. I've seen a lot of random people say that it's gotten hot for no reason, and it just is a little bit warm to the touch right now. Initially, it didn't do this for me at all, but right now it is a little bit warm. So let's take a quick look with the thermal camera. And at the hottest point, it seems that we're about 34 degrees Celsius or about 94.5 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's much warmer than if you've watched my previous videos. It seems to be getting warmer for no reason. Under settings, in battery, under battery health and charging, I'm at 92%. This has stayed steady for quite some time, but is much lower than last year. Coconut Battery says I'm at 94% with 244 cycles. Typically at this time of the year, I'm at about 170 cycles or so, and I was at 100% battery health last year at the same time, actually every year since we've had battery health on the phone. This is the first time it's ever dropped for me so early in the year. So these betas have been pretty rough as far as having pretty poor battery life, and if we go into the last 10 days, yesterday I had 3 hours of screen active time, 3 hours and 3 minutes of screen idle time. The day before, 2 hours and 40 minutes. And that's almost using 100% of my battery, maybe 80 or 90% of it. It's been pretty poor for me, and I'm not doing anything different. You'll see home and lock screen, music, Twitter, Find My on that day. The other day was just Safari and Instagram. The home and lock screen is using the most. So pretty poor battery life for me overall. And I'm hearing similar stories from most people, but some people have great battery. As far as if you should install iOS 17 public beta or beta 3 re-release if you haven't already, I would say at this point, maybe just wait for the next beta and see how it goes if you're a little bit nervous about that. The betas have been great so far for early betas, but they're still early betas with a lot of bugs. As far as iOS 17 Beta 4's release, I would expect it maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. Now, last year and the year before, they released it on July 27th, so it could be the same date or earlier. However, I do expect iOS 16.6 public release on Monday. Typically, Apple releases the major number releases on Monday, so we could see that on Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll move on to iOS 16.7 betas. That could be the last version until iOS 17 is released to the public in September. And it's pretty crazy to think we're only about a month and a half away or so from that release. So that's not too far away, and then we'll move on to iOS 17.1 and everything else. Now, as far as what you had to say on the YouTube community poll, let's take a look at some of your comments. Daniel DSFR says, lots of glitch on iPhone 14 Pro Max on iOS 17 Beta 3 with keyboard and cellular. SFR France. Trouble changing iCloud password, asking on and on again to retap it. Battery is okay, the phone is not overheating. ZOZRQ said iOS Beta 3 re-release on iPhone 11 and SE 2020. Performance is being great on both phones, no lag or stuttering whatsoever, and bugs are incredibly minimal. However, I noticed both phones getting hot from time to time, even when it's light usage and nothing heavy on the CPU. Aaron Lee 7611 said iOS 17 public beta on iPhone 11 Pro. Overall pretty good, but some widgets are blank. Sometimes I can open the respective app and then the widget shows data. Jamie Ortiz 534 says I'm using iOS 17 public beta. Battery is atrocious. I know that I signed up for it though, so it is what it is. Hiking Josh said I'm on the public beta and my Photos app crashes upon opening. And if I use a widget to get in, it crashes when I go to the albums. Also, the Messages app does not give me the text box until I back out and go back to the message. That's everything with iOS 17 Beta 3 re-release and iOS 17 public beta. We're almost to iOS 17 Beta 4, and I think that will be a big improvement for many of us. Hopefully we'll see a lot of bug fixes, maybe some new features, redesigns, feature updates, and more. Let me know what you'd like to see in iOS 17 so far in the comments below. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.